So what in that would posit this coherence? It would be the laws of logic, but the laws of logic would not, they don't justify themselves. So reality, but then what justifies reality for you?
Well,
Is it
I
just
think that's a bit
is
begging
it
the question, though.
self-referential?
I don't want to be too hasty on this,
You
but I
agree
think
existence is
I
not a property, correct?
real quick. I do think you're begging the question because the whole thing is you just asserted that the laws of logic can't justify themselves, and I said, well, yes, they can because they're internally justified. They don't require like external justification because there is no possibility in which the laws of logic can be false. And given that's the case, they're going to apply in all scenarios.
But what can you explain what justifies that they apply in all scenarios? Is it their intrinsic nature? Is that what you're trying to say?
It's the impossibility to the contrary.
So you're asking me for a defeater.
There is no defeater because any sort of logical defeater is going to presuppose the axiom that you're trying to put into question.
So you're saying that the laws of logic are true because their negation confirms them?
No. I'm just not no because when you say the negation confirms them, that would be a contradiction, right? So I'm saying the impossibility of the existence of the negation is what affirms them.
But all right, so does an abstraction dictate all the discrete members of a set?
So I have two questions. What does that mean, and how is that relevant?
So you're talking about the set of all things, which is reality, and the laws of logic. You're claiming they're an abstraction.
I'm not
So
talking about the
does
set of all things. I'm talking about the set.
that reality is the
I'm
set of
talking
all
about the I'm talking about the nature. I'm talking about the nature of all things, which isn't just strictly
Is that a
reality.
property? Is that a property?
What do you mean property?
Is that a property of reality?
What do you mean by
Is
property?
the nature of reality a part of reality?
Nature of reality.
Is it a property or attribute?
That's a redundant question.
How would reality not be how would the nature of reality not be a part of its set?
You said what? Because yeah, so
How would
when you
then
say part, it seems to presuppose some spatial temporal existence, right? And I don't think you're going to be the case that you're going to be able to describe the laws of logic and some spatial temporal proximity, right? Because part usually supposes something like that.
I never said the word part. I just said properties or attributes. I said members of a set.
Property seems to presuppose the same thing.
Something can be an attribute, not a property. So can you answer the
Well,
question? Does an abstraction?
you said property though. That's the thing. So do you mean attribute?
I said attributes and properties after. So
So
does an
are
abstraction
you using
dictate all
attribute?
the discrete members of a set?
Are you using attribute and property distinctly? Because if not, that'd just be a tautology.
No, I'm not.
So you're
This is
just
just
saying that
semantics.
that's just a redundant tautology. But okay, whatever. Yeah. So I don't know what you mean by property if it doesn't presuppose some sort of aspatial, atemporal proximity to the thing that it's part of. So maybe you could like sort of hash that out or cash that out.
So I'm not really questioning properties. I'm just all discrete members of the set. Does an abstraction dictate that?
Yeah, I mean, I'm not too sure. I mean, you could tell me.
That's not an answer.
Yeah, but
Do they or do they
if I don't
not?
have to give you an answer, right? Like I said, a question is not a defeater, right? So if you ask me a question, and I'm just like, I don't know, that doesn't defeat the position or any of the arguments or defeat any of the arguments I gave previously. That
All right.
establishes.
So I'm just gonna argue based on that it doesn't
Well,
place.
hold on. I don't want you to make the assumption that like about my argument, right? I don't want you just to assume
Well,
like, oh, I'm just gonna assume it does or it doesn't.
what do you mean by that?
Like you just said, you were gonna assume that the laws of logic don't dictate the discrete members of the set. That's what you just said, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm saying like, what's the justification that the laws of logic do not?
So you agreed back in the start that they're not a single ultimacy, correct?
I don't think I agreed to that. And then like I would also be like sort of unclear on like what you mean by like a single ultimacy. Like
So basically, there's not like a single foundation for the laws of logic.
yeah, so I would say that the single foundation is just going to that the laws of logic cohere to is just going to be the impossibility of the negation existing.
Yeah, so you're using that as a justification for the laws of logic being ultimate.
Yeah, because like if it's the case that something is ultimate, we would expect that there is impossibly the negation is impossible. Like doesn't have one.
So do you agree to the wording that you're saying this because the laws of logic confirm their negation
Confirm their negation. What do you mean?
by
I'm not.
accepting the laws of
I'm not. I'm
logic?
not saying they confirm the negation. That's an improper usage of words because when you say they confirm the negation, that presupposes that there is a negation to confirm, right? So my point is that the negation can't exist. It's impossible.
So what's your opinion on like paraconsistent logic
I think it's retarded.
and diatheism? I think that's how you say it.
Dialetheism.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
You
I'll be
confirm any of these?
yeah. So I don't affirm dialetheism nor paraconsistent logic. I think the arguments for dialetheism are just strange, and I don't think they really work. And I think whenever someone argues for the existence of a contradiction under the dialecticist view, they're not talking about like strict contradictions and
So
shit.
let's say we have the proposition this statement is false. What would the truth value of the statement be?
If it's self-referential,
Yeah.
Oh
the
my
truth
god.
value of the proposition would just be like it's true that it's false. Given that it's self-referential, right? But there are things that are self-referential and still technically sort of have like a negate the an existing negation, right? But that doesn't follow for the laws of logic. Not only are the logic self-referential, right, but they also don't have the like a negation to them doesn't exist.
So the negation to them doesn't exist, but wouldn't that go against the laws of logic itself?
No, no.
Can you explain that?
If the negation, if the negation to the laws of logic existed, that'd be a logical contradiction, right? So if you said the negation for the laws of logic existed, then it is the case that the laws of logic are not true, right? Which, when you say true, that presupposes some sort of standard to cohere with of truth, right? Which is also
All
going
right,
to
yeah.
suppose the existence of laws of logic.
All right, I'm gonna concede.
GG's. It was a good debate. I mean, you got a lot better since we argued last time. That was